Hello everybody, and welcome to another silly BattleTech stream. I'm sorry, things have been crazy since Christmas, and to be honest, I am only doing this now because I have a massive hole appear in my schedule, and I know that the next 3 or 4 weeks, work-wise and other things and whatever else is going on, is pretty crazy mental. And for those of you that caught the Michael and Chester BTTactics 2 release, that was recorded before Christmas, not last week or whatever else, although that's when it came out, because we were waiting for them to say go and they were waiting on the printer or something or other like that. So this isn't what I'd planned to do. My plan was to actually continue with the Arsenal meta. The problem with that is that needs a fair bit of prep, because I need certain decks to extol some of the things that were going on, and then the follow-on after that I've already got recorded. So if I can get that sorted, then there'll be a whole stream that'll pop out for a couple of weeks, but I need to do that, and I just haven't had the time. And kind of to support BTTactics too. And this is a kind of awkward position for me, because I love the core game. Some of the things I get roped into, I probably shouldn't get roped into. Chester ropes me in to play Dual Stockpile, which is the original game, and then all of a sudden there are BT2 mechs and cards and missions and everything flying all over the place, and I'm playing BT2. And although I think BT2 is a good expansion, and there's some thought in it, there are some things in there that I'm not great or not happy on, and that's just my personal opinion. The guys that have designed that have done an awful lot of work. I'm probably, if time works well, probably going to try and disprove some of these things and prove why I don't like them, but that's another day, another dollar. So one of the things I did do, because BT2 is not my expansion. Michael and Chester have done all the work. Okay, it's fine. Credit for all them. I've done some checking. I've pointed some stuff out. I went through the first 154 cards the other night, mainly because I didn't want to play anything, and the wife was in the bath, and I didn't want to watch anything on TV. So I went through all the cards and whatever else, and that's why there was an update last week, because it fixed some of the errors or textual errors in there. But one of the things I did do for the original BTTactics, and then updated for BTTactics 2, was the beginner decks, the starter decks. Okay. I'll put my hand up wherever it is. A bit hard doing everything in reverse. Which camera am I on? This one? No, I'm on this one. It's a trouble with 2 cameras as well. That was designed some beginner decks, and the thought with the beginner decks was to make them a little more focused, or the next step up from the Commander's Edition starters. And if you know anything about what's been going on recently, you'll know I did those as well. So for reference, the Commander's Edition starters, if you go to card pool in the middle of the screen on the left hand side, and you add a pack, and then you say, I want the Wolf starter, you choose it, and it brings you up the Wolf starter. And this is okay. It's okay for draft or sealed, which is good. One of the things that people don't think about when they get these packs is, it's not that great, it's got 5 assets in, whatever else. But the whole idea is that these are support other modes of play. So the fact that this has, when you look at it, where are we? Let's look at the types. Let's put resources in here. Down the bottom, you have all 5 assets. They are different, and there are cards from varying types, like Unnamed Sources, which has got a politics buyout, and Phelan Ward with politics and tactics. And then you've got, where's your Dragonfly gone? Here's your Dragonfly pie with AMT. They're all there. Okay. And to that extent, they do a good job. of a starter deck, and they're reasonably well balanced in the respect that you can pick them up and play them, and they're probably okay against each other, unless of course you pick the Smoke Jag one, which is just grossly overpowered in this format because it's all missiles and no decks are tuned to that. About the only time I'd pick a missile deck. So they're okay. They'll do for a start, but they are not focused enough. Okay. And if you want to pick that, you just add that and away you go and play the draft format. And all the packs are there with the Comstar and whatever else. And they all contain the 50 core cards in each set and a random 10 cards that are drawn from a pool based on whether you're in a sphere and clan, because obviously the units are variable. You can't put a clan unit in the sphere deck and vice versa. So each one is slightly different each time. The main theme, the 50 cards, are constant, but there is a little bit of a tweak on one or two random cards in there, some of which are missions, some of which are commands, and there are also a proportion of mechs as well from the various houses or factions. So from getting a limited pack of just a load of cards, Commander Edition is the next step up because they have some sort of alignment, some sort of theme. But the decks, or the beginner decks in BTTactics 2, and in fact BTTactics 1, are designed to take that a step further. Okay, so when you look in these, this is the Comstar one I've opened up, and I'll just show you where it is. If you browse, do not click open recent because it only picks up the recent decks. Browse gives you your entire folder. This is the one I was using for various things with Chester, and you will see there is a beginner Comstar deck here, and they are all called beginner, and there's each of the houses in there, or each of the standard 5 inner sphere and 5 clan houses, because you've got Steel Viper on board now. So there's 10 decks in there. Okay. And they all kind of have a bit of a theme. They kind of show some of the themes and ideas behind the relevant houses, or how they're pitched, so to speak. But they don't go into tournament standard decks. Consider this to be the next step from Commander's Edition, because it's focused, and if you like the look of it, then what I will do with each of these is suggest ways in which you could improve it. Okay, so here we have the Comstar deck. It is typically Comstar in the fact that you have the wonderful Comstar only, but everybody loved it going back in the day, Mongoose in there. There is the Nexus, and again, one of the things here is to actually have mechs that are themed to the house as opposed to some generic ones. There is a bit of a mix and match. There are a few here and there, but they are generally aligned to the house. So you'll see the mechs here. Here's the Nexus, here's the Mongoose, here's the Hermes, here's the Pinto. They are all fast, cheap units costing low amounts, and they are all Comstar aligned. The Spectre gives you a little more fast generic cover. Champion, reasonable, overheating medium. Lancelot, another overheating medium. Comedian is pretty generic. The Kintaro, again, generic. Although this one is Comstar aligned, and I believe that's the Commander's Edition version. Note on the image on the left that the Comstar alignment keyword is missing from the center line there. We have the big egg on legs, the Urban Mech's big brother, the Flashman, there as well. And we have the Black Knight, and we have the Crockett. And what you'll see is the majority of these bigger units in here are Champion, are Lancelot, are Kintaro, Flashman, Black Knight and Crockett are all overheating mechs, which is quite a theme with Comstar. So to support that, we have a couple of missions, Rapid Cooldown and Breaking the Envelope, in order to make use of that overheat a little more. We have a bit of Comstar Deep Agent, because this is an A. an assembly, a tactics, and a politics deck. It runs 8 assembly, it runs 8 tactics, it runs 5 politics. You could probably tweak that. It runs 2 war funds, it runs 2 field construction sites. The idea being to use in scrap field construction sites to put the slightly larger units out. You could maybe tweak this unit mix and drop those larger ones and change that field construction site for maybe a war funds for a bit more durability. You could, if you wanted, put some redline pilots in there. If that's the case, maybe dropping a Solaris Contacts in there is quite a good move. Sharillar Murray, basically politics buyout, but it gives your opponent -1 initiative, which is quite powerful because that can prevent them playing missions. If they've got tactics on the board, then all of a sudden they don't have tactics on the board, i.e. they cannot play missions, and they would need a pilot or to jump or maybe find something that boosts initiative. There are some cards in there in order to be able to play mission cards. So this little lady on her own actually is one of the ways of making sure that you win initiative and your opponent can't play them. And then after that, there are just some general good unit cards. There's a couple of defensive ones here with Topple. There's a couple of good anti-clan cards like Overwhelm, where you do 2 extra damage per unit. And obviously when you've got Nexus, Mongoose, Hermes and Pinto Inspector in there, they're all doing 2 a time. So popping the Overwhelm means you could get to 8 potentially, which can kill Fenrises and other things. Heroic Sack is there for your Black Knight, your Crockett, your Flashman in order to get the damage through as a finisher, and it wouldn't be a Comstar deck without a Comguard response team. So there you go. It's quite good. It's got a number of fast units. It deals with clan quite well. You know, and play it, look at it, have some fun, tweak it. As I said, you could probably maybe drop the politics slightly, boost some of the other areas to have a slightly more focused deck. But for the moment, there it is. Next up, and I'm going in alphabetical order, we have the Davian deck. And Davian are quite, apart from having 1 or 2 incredibly good pilots, one of the things they do very well is initiative. And this deck is actually very focused in the respect of it has 8 assembly and 8 tactics, 2 Solaris Contacts, 2 repair facilities, 2 think tanks. So there's only 2 assets there. Okay. And on the unit side, we have 2 warriors, 2 raptors, 2 wolfhounds, 2 bigger wolfhounds, 2 watchmen, 2 night sky, 2 Whitworths, 2 blackjacks, 2 more blackjacks, 2 even more blackjacks, 2 hatchetmen, 2 Zeus, 2 banshee. So it's quite a swarmy type deck in that respect. A lot of things are slow or medium. There is not much in the way of fast support here. You know, even your Zeuses and your banshees are slow, but you know, that's the point of the deck. The Solaris Contacts in there is used to get the pilots out, natural talent giving you a permanent +2 attack, and a randomly assigned additional initiative, which is quite good when we combine this with 1 or 2 of the other cards in a moment. Lance Commander gives you +2 initiative and prevent 1 damage to any mech in a group. That's quite useful. Expert Timing is one of the cards that turns your initiative into damage. So choose a mech you control. For each point by which your initiative exceeds your opponent's, that mech gets +1 attack. So our natural talent being a die roll, you know, +2 plus another 6, that could be +8. And that's by what you exceed. So if you're on 1 and your opponent's on 1, then you're the same. You're just thinking you could maybe mix this with Sharillar Murray in the Comstar deck and go initiative pilot and give everyone a -1 as well. Obviously noting that jumping reduces that. Battle Attrition is just an interesting card to slow your opponent down if they've got Alpha Strikes or missions or otherwise. Teaching of the Unfinished Book is another booster. You get +2 initiative until your next turn and a free deployment. Just a great way of combining with Expert Timing. Lured in the Bog helps you deal with fast units because most things are slow. Note that Lure of the Bog says until the end of turn, not the end of the mission. That's really powerful. Look at the Fox can cause all sorts of havoc. Probably the best way to describe it. Evasive Maneuvers is prevent 1 damage instead of +1 damage from Expert Timing. And End Run. Play only when a number of mechs you are attacking with is greater than the number of mechs your opponent is blocking with. And if you have tactics in place, choose one of the mechs. That mech may deal damage to the target if unblocked. So the idea again is because you've got a swarmy type deck here, lots of cheaper units. If you've got something with a natural talent on it and you run an Expert Timing, and let's face it, you've got initiative coming out of every orifice you can think of, so playing 2 mission cards is not that difficult, then dealing that damage to the stockpile, kind of in a heroic sacrifice type way, and getting that through is very powerful. Obviously, you need more units than your opponent. That's the only downside. If I was going to tweak this, I would probably drop the teachings and the battle attrition, maybe run a few more Expert Timings. Do you need the repair facility? I think you could probably swap those out for a couple of war funds to allow you to draw your Solaris contracts when you want them, and maybe tweak the missions. The units are pretty solid. You could add a few more. You could reduce your top end Banshee, Zeus at 4, Banshee at 8. You could maybe drop those down, tweak a few of these accordingly. Your choice, mix and match with the unit. And remember here, these are 2s, and that was one of the rule I wanted to do, was not set more than 2 of every unit in each of these decks to give you a variety and a bit of experience and flavour. And if you like the unit, you kept it or added more of it, and if you didn't like it, you get rid of it. That can go up to 6. So there's lots of options you can use here. Next up, we have the Ghost Bear deck, and this is arguably a minor mini version of the classic Ghost Bear Elemental deck. It runs 8 assembly, 5 tactics, 5 logistics, and a couple of strip mines to boost that up. Like the 2001 Knight's End version of this deck, 2 strip minings, I think, in a World Championship deck is not good enough. If you want to go faster, then 2 more strip minings probably worth it. Maybe for tactics, but we'll see. We have Dasher B, fast with ECM, bit expensive at 4, but it comes and hits the table hard. Dasher Prime being another one. Note these are both Omnis, as is the Koshi Prime and the Hankyu Prime, which is where our tactics come in. And then we're into classic Ghost Bear territory of Dragonflies. 2 Bs, 2 Cs, 2 Ds. There we go. And those are the majority of our units, apart from a couple of big Grizzlies down the bottom here. And what you'll notice is the Grizzly jumps, all the Dragonflies jump, the Hanky jumps, the Koshi jumps. The only 2 things that don't jump are the Dashers. And also all the elementals. There are 2 Berserk, 2 Blitzkrieg, 2 Covert, and 2 Skirmisher. Practically everything jumps in this deck. And you know, maybe one risky combat jump isn't enough. But we'll see. This has got a bit of flavour in it. Alongside our strip mine, we have 2 war funds and 2 think tanks and 2 field command posts to help with die rolls. 2 Star Commander to also help with die rolls. Strength of the Bear is double the total armor value of each of your mechs. Now, this is quite good because Dasher B has got ECM and Hankyu Prime has got ECM. So all of a sudden, that actually gives everything +1 armor, and Strength of the Bear says total armor. So that's additive. So you could actually give your dragonflies plus double, so that would be give them an armor of 4. Because here it is it's a 1/5, so it's 1 armor. Add in an ECM, that gets to 2, and the Strength of the Bear doubles it to 4. So that's quite a lot of mitigation. That's probably 3 points of damage reduction across everything. So that's quite strong. Risky Combat Jump, great card. Maybe there should be another 1 or 2 in this deck. That's up to you. But it's great for jumpers. Obviously, it doesn't work if you haven't got a jumper. So maybe if you're playing against this deck, those dashes are priority targets because they can't play Risky Combat Jump on them. Rampage is just a nice card to add damage. Jump into cover saves you taking damage. You have Bjorn. Mech piloted by Bjorn deals +5 damage to a target other than a mech. So getting him through to the stockpile is very powerful. Ammo Explosion is just another damage card and a bit of flavour. Aretha even. Aretha she's a soul singer. Aletha is another good way of preventing 3 damage. Put Aletha on a dragonfly, play Strength of the Bear, it's got 4 armor, and you're preventing 3 damage to it. So effectively you assign 4 damage to her, and it doesn't even take a scratch. And then Accidental Collision, kind of die rolling again, like Risky Combat Jump, which is why the field command posts are in there. Just a good way of dealing with a big unit. Use its own tonnage against it. So, what would I do with this? I would probably drop the Grizzly and tweak the unit balance slightly. And some of those, I'd probably go for more strip mines in there, maybe for the field command post, and maybe a couple more riskies in place of some of the other units. Up to you again. There's lots of things you can do. Again, it's all 2 costs, so you can tweak, or 2 in value, 2 in number. You might say the Covert's the weakest elemental point, so I'll add more Blitzkriegs, for example, or Skirmishers accordingly. So there we go. There's the Ghost Bear one. The Jade Falcon deck. This is a biggie. It's biggie in the fact that it's quite a heavy deck in that respect. So we will look at our resources. 2 think tanks, 2 field construction sites. Again, that's a double and scrap. Improve construction facilities. If you can get this to stick for a couple of turns, you pay 4 for it and it delivers 3 this turn. If you can get it to next turn, it delivers 6, and after that it delivers 9. If you can get this to stick, you're in a good place. War funds to be able to pull it, or either an assembly or a tactics, of which there are 8 of each. And then we have a bit of a fast screen with Dasher Prime, Koshi Prime, Fire Falcon B, Fire Falcon C, Fire Falcon D. And the Fire Falcon Prime itself. They're all pretty quick. They tend to be a little fragile and do a lot of damage. That could be said of the Hankyu C, and then the Hankyu Prime with its ECM and the Black Lantern Prime with its ECM give you a lot more in the way of sturdiness. There is a Man of War Prime in there as well. 2 Vulture Cs, which give you a bit of that moderate reliability and spongy damage absorption at 1/7, because they take a bit of a pounding, as does the Man of War. A Nightjaya Prime on 12, and a Nightjaya C on 9. Note these 2 last bad boys actually dish out a world of pain. 10 with an overheat +1, or a straight 8. And this is where some of your pilots come in. So your Soul Harmer Mech Warrior, a bit like the Marek Chaos March veteran, 1 damage, but if it's engaged in combat, it gets another 2. So that's +3/+3, which is really strong. Couple of Rise Stars to recycle your missions. Steel Talons, arguably the best Jade Falcon mission, arguably one of the best clan mission. So Rystar being able to recycle that. Reassign pilot, meaning that you can pull a trick with your Rystar or your Soul Harmer. Note that for each mission card you play during a mission involving mech piloted by Rystar, you can roll a die at the end of the mission. So you can play reassign pilot and pull the Rystar in, and then you roll at the end of the mission to see if you get your reassign back, which could be quite powerful. Move to partial cover is a good way of just preventing damage. Martha Pride is, with her little French beret in here, very good because she gets +2 attack for each Jade Falcon unit. And that's why, to be honest, there are a bucket load of Fire Falcons and these other Jade Falcon units in here to boost her up. She's good. She can do the heroic sacrifice thing to finish the game, getting through to the stockpile. Forge Mission Order is another good way of comboing with Steel Talons to remove units. Expert Timing, a bit of extra damage on here. The Rystar's got +1 initiative. The Soul Harmer gets +2, so that could be a +3 on him, +3 on his normal attack, and an ammo explosion in there. You could easily make a case to put something like single combat in here. You could easily make a case to maybe increase a couple of these big guys here at the expense of the Man of War and the Vulture. Maybe tweak some of these units slightly. You could easily make a case to put something like a double overtime in here. You know, improve construction facilities for 3, field construction site for 3, double overtime gets you to 12. And all of a sudden this Nightjar Prime is on the table. That could work quite nicely, and maybe tweak a mission or two to your heart's content. So there's the Green Budgie, or Jade Falcon. Next up we have Kurita. Okay, so the Kuritans are slightly different. They're 2 think tanks, 2 advanced manufacturing techniques which provide logistics, 2 war funds, 6 logistics, 6 munitions, 6 tactics. So a very different resource mix compared to some of the other decks so far. And their deck contains 2 Saladin and 2 Cavalry and 2 Raptor. You'll note the M and L and T requirement, and 2 Spider Revised as a fast screen. We have the Daimyo, which is a 1/6/4 long range 1/4/1M, pretty solid moderate blocker. Even more solid, and in the moderate blocking thing, we have the Grand Dragon. You don't quite get the damage with the Grand Dragon. At 3, overheat 2+1, but 2/6 body is really good, and the Daimo's a 1/6/4, so there's some solidity in the middle there. The Crab and moderate, maybe a little pricey for 4, but good and durable at 1/7, and you can overheat it for 2 more if you need to. And we also have the 6-cost Daikyu, 2/8/4, very durable for 6. On top of this, we have the big Kuritan Atlas, L, M, and T, and the Cerberus as well at 9 cost. Hatamoto Chi, again, crazily strong and durable for 4 cost, 3/8, 3 damage, overheat 2+1, and a Gunslinger as your final big boy down the bottom there. If you can get these out, then putting an intimidating paint job on that Gunslinger is just purely gross, because it's a 3/9 with ECM, so it's a 4/9, and then anything that's opposing it is -1 attack. You're going to need an awful lot of units to kill the Gunslinger, and they're going to deal a lot less damage because of the intimidating paint job. That as a combo is very strong. Vicious Kick. You really want to play this on a mech that's 60 tons or more. Well, surprise, surprise, when we look at the weight, wherever the weight has gone, it's mass, isn't it? They don't call it weight. A lot of these are 60 tons or more. Your crab isn't, your Daimo isn't, your spider and the others. But let's face it, the Grand Dragon is, Deku is, the Atlas is, the Cerberus is, the Hatamoto and the Gunslinger. So this kicking out a +4 is really strong. Transportation Delay is a nice little card that tricks your opponent into depleting their unit when it's revealed or activated, and at that point that's fair game. You can go and beat that up and get rid of it, because if it's depleted it doesn't attack and it can't do anything back. Strength of the Pillar of Steel, just +1 initiative so you know what's going on, and a bit of damage reduction. Shin Yamada, nice pilot, +2 attack, +1. If it's scrapped, you get it put on your stockpile, so it returns and the mech does. So if the mech piloted by Shin is scrapped during a mission, put it and Shin on the top of your stockpile, so you know that that's going to be your next draw. Whether that's good or not is another thing. Some people have been in a cycle where they've just drawn Shin and a unit, put them out, and then he ends up on there and you draw him again, which can put you into a bit of a negative cycle or a good cycle, depending. Let's face it, in order to kill him and his mech and put it on the stockpile, you're going to be dishing some damage back. Sacrifice for the Dragon. Note that this doesn't require a block, so you can play this at any point. Lord into Bog, because a lot of these are slow to deal with fast damage. Inexorable advance, play only when blocked. Choose one of your mechs. If that mech receives no structure damage, untap it. Given those few big ones down the bottom, like a Gunslinger with 4 armor on it, if it doesn't take any structure, you untap it at the end. That's a nice little trick. Front-loaded supply lines is there to give you a bit of punch. All your units get Alpha Strike 2, which is probably a good way to finish the game. Fog Shrouded Moors for a bit of protection, and then double time offensive. Again, one of the other ways that you can win the game: attack, and then untap a load of cards with this, and then attack again. So it's a double hit to kind of finish. Lots of durability in here. So cool. How would I improve it? I think your top end might be a little high. I'd probably drop the Atlas. I think 8 for 3 damage, overheat 4, 3 missile 1. It's not great, but you might go more Gunslingers. You might try and put some resource boost in there, like a double time offensive or something or other, to put these out. You could go with assault mech specialists and drop your Daimo and maybe go with more of the 80 tonners or more. That could be a good thing to do. This card, Advanced Manufacturing Techniques, allows you to put lots of counters on things. So if it's got 5 counters on it, you put 2, and if it's got 8 counters on it, you put 3 on there, which is a good way to get some of these bigger ones out. But maybe have a look at that. Next up we have Liao. Okay. This is another mixed deck, and it's a 3-asset deck. 2 think tanks, 2 earthworks. Earthworks, interesting in the fact that it's 2 politics, but provides assembly, which is quite nice. And it says activate one of your mechs under construction that's within 2 resources of being fully constructed. Now, paying 2 for this is effectively free if you can activate the unit. Note that means if you're on 5 counters and it costs 8, it needs to be at 6 counters to be in 2 cost of being activated. Otherwise, you're just putting a resource on it. So there are limits with it. Most of the time, if your units are cheap, then you're not going to worry too much about that. 2 war funds to draw it. 5 politics, 6 tactics, 8 assembly. Okay. So what have we got going on? We have a couple of VTOL Nightshades, fast blockers, ECM, and a little bit of plink damage at 1 a point. We have the straight cost 1 Assassin with jump. We have the 3-cost Spectre, the 4-cost Wraith. These are all fast. Okay. We have the Baby Clint, the Clint Revised. Clint Revised is gross. 1/3. 1 cost, 3 damage. The Charger, the Politics version, free deploy. The Centurion, 9A. This could easily be a 9D. Vindicator Revised. Catapult. Cataphract. Striker. And Charger. And most of these are quite low in cost in order to allow you to put them out quite cheaply with Earthworks. Let's face it, if you've got 3 on this Charger, then you can use Earthworks and out it comes. If you've got 4 on this Striker, you can use Earthworks and out it comes. So they're reasonably durable, and you can throw them out quick. So how do we make sure stuff goes through? Well, we have Manipulation of Romano, which is tap all guarding mechs. Obviously that has the power of tapping all the guarding mechs. So if your opponent is blocking, then guarding to prevent you, then all of a sudden that's taken that out. It's a good way of clearing out anything he's got guarding the stockpile. Death Commando Strike is pricey, but basically allows you to kill or remove the majority of cards in the game. It's quite powerful, but it's quite expensive. Choose any command card in play or any card under construction and scrap it. So command cards could be a pilot. It's a good way of killing a pilot. It could be a terrain that's annoying you. Could be a good way of getting rid of that. It could be a good way of getting rid of that Daishi when it's on 14 counters and not quite at 20 or whatever else it is. So that's quite a strong card. Maskurovka Headquarters. Tap for a resource. Most people miss that. Tap it for a resource. It hasn't got the resource keyword, which is a bit annoying. Maybe it should have. So if in doubt, you can always use it for a resource. Or choose a card under construction and your opponent shows you that. So you can reveal it without having to attack it. It's quite nice. Trojan Horse, good way of dealing 7 damage. Sacrifice something that doesn't deal 7 damage and doesn't cost a lot. Yep. Maskurovka Sabotage. I love this card. It's gross. Any opposing unit deals any amount above their base attack to themselves. So the base attack, for reference, is what's printed. That in this case is 1 on this Charger. If it overheats, it deals 1 to itself to overheat for 1 additional attack. And then with Maskurovka, that's redirected to itself. So it actually does 3 to itself. No, it does 2 to itself. But when you look at some of the other units, like this one, overheat 2+2, the overheat does 2 to it, and the damage, right, okay, overheat option, okay, self-damage, overheat 2, you do 2 to yourself to get an overheat attack bonus of +2. That gets redirected, it does 4 to itself, effectively. So that's pretty powerful. For the Chancellor, quite underrated, I find this. Play only when blocked. After the mission ends, for each blocking unit that took structure damage, that includes it dying, by the way, during the combat, you may untap one of your mechs. It's kind of like Overrun, but better, because you don't have to kill everything. You just have to damage it. And finally, Eris Sung, +2 attack, +2 initiative, and count the number of units, mech piloted by Eris, so prevent up to that much damage to one of the units. So this is really strong because it prevents a kill. So she's pretty cool in that respect. Improve this, tweak your units, make them a little more reliable. Maybe war funds. Do you need that many politics? Possibly not, although you've got Earthworks in there. You've still got some good cards in there. So that would be what I would do with that one. Next up we have Marek. Okay, so the Marek deck is a 6 munitions, 6 tactics, 6 assembly. It's an AMT deck. We have Saladins, Cicadas as our dasher stoppers, Spectres and Wraiths again, Centurion 9Ds, Anvil revised. This is a really strong unit, 4 damage and ECM. It's a 3/6/4 effectively. It's probably the best unit in the game for hunting elementals. I'm not sure I'd want to play the against this Marek deck if I was running that Ghost Bear elemental deck, but hey, takes all sorts. Huron Warrior, again overheat for 4, big durability, moderate blocker. Hercules, 2/8/4 for 5, strong, durable, moderate unit. Awesome. It's the Marek one, which is the more bigger, expensive one, but it does do 7 on its own. The Zukov, nice, cheap, and cheerful little unit. Quite durable. If you get dice karma and the dice are on your side, this thing will stick around all day. Because at 2/7, 9 to kill it off, it takes an awful battering. On the converse side, you attack the first time and somebody blocks with a thorn and does 1 damage to it, and you roll a 6, then you feel pretty pissed. Just the way of it is. Marek Albatross, 3/7/4, missile, durable, and the no asset straight 7 to buy, 3/8/6 Tempest. So you can see most of these decks have got some starts, cheap units, durables, and go up to the larger ones. This deck packs 3 Chaos March veterans, which is possibly a little generous. Maybe it should only be 2 for balance, but hey, who cares? One of those on a Wraith is really strong. One of those on a Huron Warrior or a Hercules is really strong. We also have 2 War Funds, 2 Think Tanks. Not sure why that's coming that way. Might just be the way I filtered it. 2 difficult terrains to allow you to deal with or block 1 speed faster. Safe Report. Look at your opponent's hand, draw a card. Knowing what he's got and drawing an extra card yourself isn't bad, and it costs you nothing. Overwhelm is a good way of increasing damage. Heavy Fog is a good way of not blocking and letting them through and preventing damage. Forge Mission Order to remove them on the way in. The Ubiquitous, arguably one of the best mission cards in the game. Possibly the best Inner Sphere focused mission card, Blitzkrieg. Remove all patrolling units from the battle. Bait and Switch. Again, if you've got the pilot, you can do this and then pull in something else. An accidental collision to do with the bigger units. You might be able to rewrite this without munitions and bump the tactics up, tweak the unit mix. Maybe tweak a few of these as well. I'm not so sure you need difficult terrain if you do that, if you've got enough fast units, and maybe tweak the resources. Not the resources, the missions. Okie dokie. Rasselhag. This is a real toughie to build because they don't have very many mechs. In fact, they don't have any specific units in the base game. And there aren't many of them in the game at all, Rasselhag cards. And the one that strikes out is Air Strikes Close to Home, which is a 2-cost 6 politics card, and basically it's a hand attack card. You build it up, and for every 1 construction counter above the cost of this card, you can remove a card from your opponent's hand. So if you can get this to 7 construction counters on this, you can completely obliterate their hand. To go with this, we have a mixture of politics, tactics, and logistics this time. We have a Nightshade again, we have a Cavalry, we have a Spider, we have the Jenna 2C Orange Wannabe in the Lightning, which I love. I think this is a great card. and the assassin. Vehicle in the galleon, centurion, awesome. Demon's pretty pokey at 4 damage for 3 cost, and pretty much stays around. The Cyclops, the Hunchback, and the Grasshopper. So there's a reasonable mix of units here. Popping airstrikes early gives you a good advantage. War funds to pull them. Outreach mercenary training to get that politics and tactics in there. The Star League Proving Grounds seems quite reasonable because one of your unaffiliated units, none of these units have Rasselhark affiliation because Rasselhark haven't got any units, gives you +1 attack and +1 armor whenever you want. That's pretty good. Entropy based warfare can be very powerful here if you can deplete their hand with airstrikes. Each opposing unit under construction costs an additional unit to activate. So if they can't draw resources, it costs them more to put them on the table. That slows them up, as does Severed Supply Lines, which is scrap when revealed. Choose an opponent and any asset. That opponent loses the asset until he or she deploys a resource card that provides that asset. Well, if they've got nothing in their hand, they're very much top decking everything. And if you're playing a wolf deck and they're trying to get a Phantom A out, and it's a 5 cost with 3 A, M and T buying outs, and picking one of those can basically mean they've got to pay 8 for it, which is really slowing them up. And then Hidden Reserves allows you to draw a few more cards. You'll note there are no mission cards in this deck. Full stop. What we got next? We have Smoke Jag. Smoke Jag from the Commander's Edition box, and the Commander's Edition box has got a propensity for missiles. I think that's still here. I think it's a bit more rationalised, and there's lots of other cover. So Koshi D, better than Koshi Prime because the picture's better. Jenna 2C, Fenris Prime, Grendel B, Grendel C and Grendel Prime are all very good fast units in various costs. There's a nice little curve there to give you plenty of cover for your moderates, of which we have a Peregrined Horn Owl. We have 2 Puma A, the missile boat, 3 missiles on that, and coupled with this Puma, the Puma C, which is missile 2 with Narc, that can give out an awful lot of damage. Shadowcat Prime's got a bit of long range on it, and you've got a Ryokan D in there as well, the big missile boat. And these have all got 1 attack here, 1 attack here. In fact, it's 2 attack on the C and 1 on the Puma A, which give you room to fit a retrofitted missile rack. And that, coupled with a targeting ace, can work an awful lot of havoc. The Narc retrofit could go on any of these units. Obviously the Puma A might be the best for it because it's got the missiles, but if you've got a C and a D, a Ryokan D out, don't be afraid to put it on some of the other units, because if you're attacking or blocking with that unit, then Narc applies to other units in that group, which could include those. So don't be afraid to put it on one of those if you need to. Trapped is a good defensive mission. Thunder LRMs is a way of kind of locking down your opponent with your missile unit. Each mech that receives damage from missiles fired from a mech enhanced by this does not untap during its controller's next untap phase. Use this ability during a mission. You can deploy it revealed. So basically it keeps them tapped, and that's quite strong. Steady fire. Roll all the missile. Now the advantage of steady fire is you roll all the die first, then you know what damage you've got and you can assign it accordingly, which is quite good. And you know what's happening, and you know more likely to deal with things. Combo this with nice grouping where all missiles from your mech opponent deal damage equal to the die roll. sod getting 1 to 3 and modding it with Narc. Why don't I just have a straight roll of 6 and kill you in one go? That's quite strong. Hot loaded LRMs. Enhanced mech or vehicle gets X attack, where X is equal to the number of missiles it can fire. At the end of each mission involving that mech or vehicle, roll a die. If the roll is less than or equal to the amount of structure damage taken during the mission by that mech, scrap it. So this gives a unit plus X attack. So on this Ryokan, you would give this plus 3 attack. And provided it doesn't take any structure damage, which is because he's got a beefy armor, that's not so bad, then you don't need to scrap it. I don't like the scrap, but the damage bonus is quite nice. This is more of a game-ending card than having it out early. Heavy Fog is a good defensive card, and Feint is if your opponent goes hunting and tries to kill one of your units, you can just roll it and deal no damage. Which is quite strong. To improve this, whether you go down the missile route or not, I'd probably drop the Narc retrofit and the hot loaded and the Thunder LRMs, maybe put more retrofitted in, tweak my fast blockers, and maybe take the Shadowcat out and focus on dealing my missile damage and get that through. The other thing you might include in there is there are 2 think tanks. Creative terraforming to remove anybody that's playing something like a point defense system. Next up, we have St. Ives. So more than 10 decks from my count, probably more like 13. Again, this doesn't have a great deal of St. Ives cards in there because there aren't many. It focuses on some that are work stoppaging and St. Ives salvage crew. So we're running politics and logistics, and we are running work stoppage and strip mining, war funds, some tactics, some think tanks. That's all over the place. Let me redo that again. It's running 2 think tanks, 2 tactics, 2 war funds, 2 strip mines, 6 politics, 6 logistics. I must have filtered that way. Okay. Requiring L, we have Keith Smith, which allows you to look at your opponent's cards and rearrange them. And it's the top 3 cards, so you know exactly what they're going to draw next turn. Or you can rearrange them and decide I'm going to hit your stockpile with 1, 2, or 3, depending on what you can, and put the priorities in the right place. The Galleon, reasonably durable moderate blocker for 1. The Burke, again, good damage for a small unit, small cost, and the Reliable Demon. And then we're into both Grasshoppers, 2 of each, the Logistical Cyclops, the Orsa with no buyout, the Centurion with no buyout, the straight 1-cost Javelin, the Assassin, and the Spider. So not the greatest amount of firepower and mech setup, but your power is in other areas. Work stoppage allows you to, when you activate this card, choose an asset. Players with that asset available may not ignore asset costs. So this is why this deck is L and P with a little bit of tactics. And all of these units have very small buyouts. The only one with it is there's the Spider, and there's a bit down here with the Galleon and stuff. So the idea with this is that you stop your opponent's A and M and T with this. And some of those clan mechs have got big buyouts. And of course, all of yours don't have those buyouts. Command Circuit can accelerate your deployment, as can Mech Hanger. So you can still put 2 units out per turn and activate your work stoppage. The Salvage Crew is quite interesting. Whenever cards are scrapped from your stockpile, put them in your hand and then choose that many cards in your hand to scrap them. This prevents you losing the cards you really want and get rid of the crap that's in your hand that you don't want. Hidden Reserves allow you to fill that up, and Fast Deployment allows you to put all of that down quite quickly by making 3 additional deployments this turn. And finally, if you are attacked, civilian settlement deals 1 damage back to them. So this is all about making it painful for your opponent. Okay. Steiner is next up. Nearly there. Steiner. This deck, Mimics? What am I? Jesus, what was in that? Mimics the, or kind of goes down the traditional Steiner route of playing with the McMallet, the bearer of McKinsey Hammer. We have 8 assembly, 6 politics, 6 tactics, 4 politics, 2 war funds, 2 think tanks, and 2 field command posts. The command posts +1 to your die rolls. Bearer of McKinsey Hammer untaps on a 4, 5, or 6. So saving that to help untap your bearer is definitely a good thing. What do you want to put your bearer on? Probably this Banshee, or possibly this Gunslinger, or if you're feeling a little desperate, you can stick it on this Striker and do 5, 7, or 5 + 3, 8 damage each turn, unblocked. Or not unblocked, but you get to untap at the end. And these are all pretty tasty. This has got 4 armor effectively with ECM, 3 armor here, 2 armor here, 3 armor on the Banshee, Gunslinger. Yeah. Zeus is tasty. Hatchet Man is just cheap and cheerful and durable. The Star Slayer is somewhat similar, but it's moderate. Night Sky, Wolfhound, Spectre, all in their mix as well. So we have misrouted command. Right, okay, so let's look at our commands. Let's get this right, boy. So let's look at our commands. We have, where are we? Inside Job to allow you to attack for unblocked with your bearer unit. We have misrouted command to basically play around with your opponent's units and keep them busy and tap them up. And then we have Adam Steiner to tap when your bearer of McKinsey Hammer fails. Okie dokie. And finally, a bit of defensive mission, Comguard response team, lured into bog. Satchel charges is a good way of increasing your damage with cards that are going to be stuck in your hand, like all those spare resources. So if you've got your, Gunslinger for 7 with a Bear of McKinsey Hammer on it, you can then drop your satchel charges and take that 7 up to 13. And does the Bear have initiative? +1 initiative. Drop an unopposed on it as well and do 7 base, 7 bonus, and another 6. So you can get 20 out of a Gunslinger with those 2 missions, which is, inside job and away you go. Thank you very much. Very strong, or potential to kill in that respect, or end the game quickly. Yeah, I'd tweak the units on here. I'm not so sure that satchel charge is the best use. Maybe a black market in there. Unopposed works well. Tweak your units and your missions. Penultimately, we have Steel Viper, and this extols a number of the Steel Viper cards. Some of these are very strong, so we will look at the resources first. We have 2 think tanks, 2 repair facilities, 2 advanced manufacturing techniques, 2 war funds, 8 assembly, 8 tactics. And the idea with the advanced manufacturing techniques is to help get out some of these big things like the Nightjaya Prime again, like the Crossbow B. AMT, 5 counters, gets +2 on it. So Crossbow B can come out early. Crossbow A for 8 isn't too far off. You've got a Shadowcat A in there for 5. Battle Cobras. All of those. The Nobunori Nin at 6 is good value. Moderate, durable, jumps. There's a bucket load of damage attached to it. 2 Hankyus in the Prime and C. Dasher Prime, Koshi Prime. They're your mech base. And on top of this, we have the Steel Viper R&D team to give you an extra deployment. And then we have quite a varied mission package associated with this. ECM Retrofit gives you ECM and allows you to draw a card and isn't a deployment. We have Breaking the Envelope. When it uses its overheat options, double the options and the attack bonus. This is particularly pertinent with something like these, or the Battle Cobra A. So this becomes overheat 4+4, so you get 9 out of it. Coup de Grace is another mech killing mission, Steel Viper only, very good. Defensive formation prevents damage. Move to partial cover prevents a bit of damage. Rapid cooldown for those units that overheat. Note that your Battle Cobra A and B and the Prime overheat, as does the Nightgyre and the Hankyu. Defensive formation where a rapid cooldown. Taking the hit is a good way of killing your Koshi and keeping your Nightgyre or your crossbow alive. And Viper's Maw is a great way and could also trigger with taking the hit, by the way, if you've got your initiative. You've got some jump in there in order to pull that off. And when I say that, you can Viper's Maw and pull in units that you want. And you attack with your Nightgyre and your Koshi. Your Viper's Maw to pull more units in. They all give damage to the Nightgyre. And then you play taking the hit and give it to the Koshi. The Koshi is blasted into smithereens, and none of the units are now taking it. Your Nightgyre is still alive, and then you've opened the path up. And in order to recycle them all, the other great Steel Viper card in here is you have Perigard, which basically tap him each turn and put a mission back in your hand. Really strong, really powerful. Doesn't cost any cards to do that, unlike Black Market Connections, and that's why we've got quite a varied missions package in here. You could maybe make a case for dropping a bit of the ECM stuff here and maybe putting a studded move or two in or something else. Oh, and I've forgot the Redline Pilot, which worked quite well again because of your Battle Cobra overheating strategy in here. They allow you to do a lot more damage. I think you could tweak the mix slightly and focus it a little more. There are a number of mission and mech strategies that you could use to improve this. Steel Viper R&D team, if you get that rocking and it stays on the table, it's an absolute beast because it's draw a card and make an additional deployment this turn, which accelerates you by 50% above your opponent. And finally, the Wolf deck. Okay. This is kind of, again, mimicking classic Wolf, which is normally fast mechs and hunters. We have 8 assembly, 6 tactics, 5 munitions, 2 war funds, 2 think tanks. And we have to support this 4 Trial of Grievances, which give you each of the assets. Draw a card, gain a deployment each turn, which gets you through some of the unit buyouts that you've got. When we look at our units, we have Fenris A, Fenris B, Fenris C, Dasher Prime, Fenris Prime, Pouncer C, Man of War B, Linebacker B, Mad Cat B, Corvus, and Galahad. And you can see a lot of them have got A, M, and T buyouts. I mean, I've been very generous here because there's 3 Fenris Primes and there's 3 Dasher Primes. They probably should have been something else. They could easily have been one of the other units in here. You know, maybe one of the Pouncers or a different linebacker or something or other like that. They are generally fast with your Fenrises. Maybe you should have a Fenris D in here. Maybe probably Fenris D in here over Dasher Prime and a Fenris Prime would probably be a better deck from my point of view, but it is what it is. So they all hit pretty hard. They all have fair durability. And to go with this, we have arguably a varied mission package which errs into the classic Wolf. 1 superior navigation, 1 pushing the envelope, 1 good shooting, 1 forged mission orders, 1 overrun, 1 fire from cover, and 1 accurate intelligence. And then you have a Rise Star to help you recycle some of the missions, Vlad to allow you to attack units of the same speed, and Mech Warrior Peter. Mech piloted by Mech Warrior Peter may deal any amount of its damage to the target. Use this ability only if the mech is fast and only if blocked. So this works well on these fast units, which is probably why a Fenris D should be in there. Can't believe I missed that. Note it doesn't work on the linebackers or Mad Cats and stuff in there. But it's durable, there's lots of firepower, and it's got a number of fast hunters in there. If you wanted to improve this, maybe you take some of these out and put some phantoms in. You could even easily have a deck of 3 Fenrises of multiple options and 3 of each of the Fenrises and 3 each of the Phantoms. Maybe ignoring Phantom Prime, maybe ignoring Fenris C. I know some people don't like Fenris C, but it's a really good poke mech, i.e. you send it over to the stockpile and your guy thinks, oh, I'm only going to take 1. So he takes 1 and then you roll the missile dice, which is probably going to be another 1. But if you roll a 3 or a 2, that hurts quite a lot and makes it think. And he might block it next time, allowing you to get something else through. You could take some of the speed out, because some of the slow stuff here, and maybe reduce the costs of it a little better. And as I said, put Phantoms in there alongside your Fenrises, tweak your unit, your missions slightly. I think Mech Warrior Peter's valid. I think Vlad is valid. Whether you run the Rise Star and put a black market in, different questions, etc., etc. But it kind of extols that AMT Fast Clan Hunter deck. And there you are. There are the BTTactics beginners decks with some advice on what to do with them. The great thing with these is they're reasonably well balanced. There are 1 or 2 decks where there's 3 cards in and maybe it should be 2, but people are only going to improve those decks and put 4 or 5 or 6 of them in and chop and change a few units anyway. But if you haven't got a deck, or you think your opponent's got a really good deck and you're not so sure about yours, you can pick one of these up quite quickly, quite easily. They're all there. They are a step up from Commander's Edition. They are a bit more focused, and you can just throw some cards down and have a game without having to think about how to build a deck and what should go in it, because that's quite hard and quite complicated, and it's not for everybody. And you know, we all do it. I remember my first deck. I had critical hit in my first deck, drew it in my first hand, thought I'm away here, rolled dice all game, and it never hit the table. We all make mistakes. So it's a good way of giving you a bit of direction, and showing you how some of the cards work. If you like them, play with them. If you don't like them, throw them out and put something else in that you quite like instead. Note that where you've got your beginner deck, you also have this copy button. In the middle of the screen here, you have a copy button. And that will give you another copy of that deck, I hope. I've never used it, to be honest. But it should keep that, and then you can save it, or you could give it a different name or something like that, and save it, and away you go, and keep your original ones. I think when they do no, I'm not going to commit to that because I'll get it wrong. But I think they're available or downloadable, or you can replace them. Or just copy them and edit them accordingly. So hopefully you can see some of the ideas that I was trying to put in place, some of the arguably classic themes for some of the units, Smoke Bat, Jag being missiles, Jade Falcon being big stuff, Davian having initiative, Lau being sneaky, etc., etc. They're in there. They're not overly juiced. They're not overly prevalent, but they are there. And if you like that, then you just increase the card numbers. And if you don't like it, you kick it out and put something in that you want to play with and just have some fun. And that's the whole idea. Have some fun. maybe focus your deck slightly, and then you change it and tweak it and turn it into yours. You know, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and there's no Spanish Inquisition. They're not going to come round to your house and arrest you if you change the decks or anything. So do what you want with them. Yeah. Oh, and also if you want to play around with I'll just do this as a quick refresher. Let's just go for a new deck. If you want to play around with the Commander's Edition versions, you click Card Pool, add a pack, pick the one you want. I'll go for Krita here, choose, and then down the bottom you have Add All to Deck, and it puts everything up there for you. That Add All to Deck button down the bottom is really nice. You can see they're a lot more varied. They run more assets. But if you want to play with those, then fine, go ahead and enjoy it. Cool. Right, I'm done. Stick a fork in me. Hopefully that's informative, useful, or you've got an insight into what is in my rat's maze of a mind, which is probably going to do you some really bad mental health issues. But up until that point, take care, look after yourselves. It's a big bad world out there, and I'll see you on the flip side.